All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So, today's lesson is going to be the starting part of the Civil War. Okay. Now, we're going to be going over certain things. Okay. Now, one of the things, though, that I really want to let you guys know about is we are going to be having a new type of way of doing things later on. So some of these times you might be watching the video and I'll be telling you, hey, or we'll be in class. I'll be like, hey, we got to stop the video or stop the lesson, and you guys got to watch the rest of it on the video. Um, we're going to try this thing out, see how this works. Okay. But right now, just letting you know, because I just found out, a little while ago that I'm going to have to make some changes. Um, but I just want to let you guys know that. Okay. And I'll explain it more next week in class. Okay. So today's lesson, we're going to analyze whether Fort Sumter was a legitimate battle. And then we're going to examine the first assassination attempt of Abraham Lincoln. He's not even president yet, and people are already trying to kill him. And then we're going to create an argument on whether John Brown should be considered a martyr. Okay. Now, here is your warm up picture. Um, I like the picture that came out on your worksheet, but you have to see it in color. It's so much better, so much vibrant. Now, the question's asking you not to list things like do not put, oh, I see a guy standing there. No, that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is this: how is this artist trying to basically tell you what the Civil War is going to be like? Okay, because this artist obviously made this after the Civil War, and they basically tied in a lot of things together. So look at the background, look at the foreground, look at everything, and what kind of sense are you getting from this? What kind of how is this war going to be? You know, so look at it, really analyze this picture. And again, analyzing isn't saying, "Oh, I see a guy." And it's not. No, that's not analyzing. That's listing, and that's what we're doing. Okay, a lot of you guys have been doing that, and you've been losing points. Okay, so don't do that. Answer the question that's on the worksheet, which is your warm up saying, "What is this artist trying to say about the Civil War?" Okay, so there's lots of clues. Okay, so pause the video, write your response, go moving on in three, two, one. All right. So the guy in the middle you saw in that warm up picture, that was John Brown. That's him right there. Okay. John Brown was an abolitionist. And an abolitionist is a person who believes that slavery is wrong, it should be gotten rid of. Okay. Now, thing is, John Brown um, was like all these other abolitionists trying to find a peaceful way, okay, let's try to negotiate with the slave owners and the people who want slavery. Let's see if we can come to some type of common ground. And the thing is, he come to realize was you couldn't say anything to these slave owners. These people who wanted slavery, they wouldn't even budge. No, it's either keep slavery or nothing at all. And they wouldn't budge. And when people are like that, you really can't work with them. They're being hard headed and things like that. So basically, he thought, you know what? We tried the nice way. That's not working. How about this? We basically get their attention by kicking their teeth in. And that's what he does. He feels a revolt is the only way to get change, only way to get rid of slavery is through violence. Now, he has a plan. And his plan was to go to a plantation, right? Give the slaves guns. They would then fight for their freedom, kill the slave owner, things like that. And then those who are willing to fight, yay, bring your guns. We're going to free some other slaves at another plantation. Give those guys guns. And then same thing, liberate them, move to another plantation, and then another, and another, and another. So basically, kind of like the snowball effect, the snowball falling down a hill, and at the very end, it gets all huge. That's what he wants to do. Go to place to place to place to place, freeing the slaves, giving them guns, and creating a massive army of armed slaves that would get their freedom. Pretty simple, right? Seems logical. But here's the thing: where are they going to get the guns? So on October 16th, 1859, at Harper's Ferry, Virginia, there's a National Armory there. And an armory is where the military keeps their guns, ammunition, gunpowder, things like that. So the thing is, if you don't know, a ferry is a place where they transport people or things from one side of land across a body of water to another place. Okay, so just think of it like a coastline. Okay, so there's water and there's land. The armory is where the near where the water is. Okay, now he has a crew of five free black men and 13 white men, and two of these white men are his sons. Now, a student asked me earlier today, um, didn't they have like security and a bunch of soldiers there and stuff like that? It's like, yeah, they had some type of security there, but it's nothing like it is nowadays. Because you have to remember, back then it was kind of like, who would be, who would rob from the U.S. government, the U.S. Army? Well, John Brown. So they subdued some of the guys. They make it into the ferry, and all of a sudden, whistle blows. Brrr, you know, town people come in, things like that. They're like, "Hey, they're robbing the armory," things like that. So the people nearby come by and try to stop them. They are able to stop them, and then word gets, you know, out that's saying, "Hey, there are some men trying to steal ammunition and guns from the armory." This is where Robert E. Lee comes in. Robert E. Lee, again, is the nation's best soldier, you know, in every which way that our country has produced at that time. And he's commanding a bunch of U.S. Marines. And he's like, okay, town folk people, thank you. We got this now. And they basically have a shootout with John Brown and his people. Um, while they're shooting it out with the Marines, his guys are dying left and right. You know, John Brown's people are just falling, right? His two sons die, and I believe one of them even got struck in the head and died instantaneously. So Brown is like, you know what? My guys are all dying, things like that. So he's like, you know what? Hey, I surrender. Okay. So he comes out, he surrenders. They arrest him, they charge him, and he is found guilty and executed. Okay. Now, the most famous runaway slave is Frederick Douglass. Okay. And he basically said he admired John Brown. Right. Now, why did he admire him? Because he basically said, look at this white guy. Right. He could have easily lived the rest of his life, you know, and enjoyed the fruits of his labor. You know, he could have easily lived the rest of his life seeing his sons get married, have kids, you know, and spend his time with his grandchildren till the day he died and enjoy a nice, happy life while also enjoying the privileges of being a white man at that time. But he didn't. He saw there was something wrong in this country and said, I've got to do something about this. And it ended up costing his life, and he had no problem with it. So that's what he says. This guy is a hero. And a lot of people in the North, who again were abolitionists and didn't like slavery, they were like, yeah, he's a hero. He's a hero. He's basically a saint. Now, the people in the South who wanted slavery basically saw him not as a saint, but as a devil. Oh, how can this guy look at? He's trying to give our slaves guns. He wants them to kill. You know, what kind of hero tells people to kill? You know, and then they start blaming the Republicans. Like, oh yeah, he was an abolitionist. He was probably one of those Republicans. Yeah, see, they're trying to get guns to slaves and kill us. Oh, see, so they're trying to flip the card and be like victims. You know, like they never hurt anybody. You know, type of thing. But yeah, to the north, John Brown is a hero. To the south, he's a villain. All right. So one of the questions I get from students quite a bit when I'm going through talking about Lincoln is that I forget to mention about his beard. So I put it here now. Basically, what happened was Lincoln got a letter from this girl named Grace Bedell, and she basically said, you know, Lincoln, My family loves you. I love you. You're so awesome. You're great. But you look sick. Now, if you look at that top picture when he's clean shaven, that's how he looked. He was very, very thin. Remember, I told you physically, his arms and body, that he was ripped. He was, I mean, muscle. But yeah, he looks very thin. I mean, they basically told him like eat a sandwich or something. So Lincoln's reading this letter from this little girl, and he's like, "Honey," and he tells his friends too. He's like, "Guys, do I look sick? Do I look too thin?" And they're like, "Oh my god, okay, we've been wanting to tell you this, without sounding like mean, but yeah, you look just so thin. You kind of do look sick, like you don't eat or nothing." And Lincoln's like, "Really? Okay, well, how can I make my face look more plump, more, I mean, because it's my face. What can I do to it?" And then it hit him. Just grow a beard. So this is where the iconic beard comes in. And if you look at that bottom picture, his face does look a little bit more, you know, filled, right? So it's just all because of an 11-year-old girl told him, all right? Now, December 17th, 1860, the southern states have a secession convention. And basically on the December 20th of that same year, South Carolina officially becomes the first state to separate from the United States. Okay. Now, in class, I had a student ask me, can we really do that? Can a state really just separate from the United States? Absolutely, guys. There is nothing really truly legally holding us together. But if a state goes off on its own, I means everything else they got to take care of. They have to have their own army, they got to have their own money, and trade and things like that because they're on their own. They're saying basically, I could take care of myself, like a kid leaving the parents' house. So it's like, okay, do it. Let's see how well you do. Now, um, about a month later, six more states end up leaving too. Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas. And all these states basically decide to come together and form a new nation called the Confederacy. Okay, so remember, the Confederacy wants slavery. The Union, the United States, what's left of it, thinks slavery should be gotten rid of. Okay. Now, Lincoln is on his way to get inaugurated, to become officially the first president of the United States. And he goes from Springfield, Illinois through, to Chicago and different places, and, Cleveland and, New York, Philadelphia. And he's meeting people on these trains and things like that, shaking their hands and then word gets to him you there's assassination attempt on you in Baltimore. And Lincoln's like, oh, okay. Now, some of Lincoln's people are like, okay, so are you not taking this seriously? And like, Lincoln's like, yeah, I am, but don't worry, I got a plan. They're like, no, no, sir, you don't understand. We need to like not go to Baltimore. And he's like, no, 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 no. See, I gave my word that I was going to be in Baltimore, and I am. When I say I gave my word, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, and I'm going to go to Baltimore. And people are like, what is wrong with Lincoln? So another group called the Pinkerton National Detective Agency, they get word of this too, and they're basically telling Lincoln, hey, this assassination plot to kill you. He's like, oh yeah, I'm Baltimore, yeah. And they're like, okay, so want us to protect you? Things like he's like, no, 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 I'm good. And they're like, no, sir, you don't understand. This is a very serious threat against your life. They like people are like really talking about wanting to kill you. Gotcha. Don't worry, I'm good. I got a plan. And everyone again is just like, what in the world? Okay, so here comes the day. February 23rd, 1861. The train comes in around like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. People are crowded around, the train. Lincoln, 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 Lincoln. The assassins are there and stuff like that. And Lincoln doesn't come out. And they're told, oh, yeah, Lincoln's not on this train. People are like, wait, what? Yeah, see, what happened was Lincoln took an earlier train. He said he was going to go to Baltimore, right? But he didn't say what time. He ended up getting there around 2 in the morning and was like, "Hello, Baltimore. All right, nobody's here. Let's go to Washington, D.C." So he did keep his word. He went to Baltimore, but nobody was there when he showed up. So again, that's what I mean. He is keeping his word, but there's that little gray area. He said, "Yeah, I'm going to show up on this day," but he didn't say what time. So gray areas, but he still keeps that. Hey, I did what I said I was going to do. I showed up that day. And on March 4th, 1861, Lincoln is inaugurated as our 16th president of the United States. And he gives one of the most phenomenal inauguration speeches ever. He goes, like he says, we must not be enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break the bonds of our affection. Bam! Oh my God, that's amazing. Now, Fort Sumter, it's an island in the Charleston Harbor in South Carolina. Okay. Now, this is a picture of it. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Remember when I told you the Confederates separated from the United States? They felt that all that land in that state that they separated, Texas, Georgia, and all that stuff, that all that land's theirs. But forts technically belong to, their military and part of the United States. So they're like, no, yeah, no, not all of the land. Forts and things like that. That's the United States territory. And the Confederates are like, no, that's our land. So Lincoln doesn't want to be the president who started the war. He's trying to avoid, like, oh, Lincoln started the war. He's trying to avoid that. But he also knows he can't surrender that land. So he's in this thing called a catch-22, where he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. So it's a tough situation. So Lincoln has an idea. Okay, you know what? I won't start the war, but I'm going to send a ship to that place to give them supplies, food, ammunition, letters from home, things like that. So he sends the ship, and the ship goes. And right when they're really close, all of a sudden cannonballs sorry, trying to go for the ship. Because around this island, you know, there is land, right? The Confederates have cannonballs, and they're just shooting cannons at the ship. And the ship basically says, the captain's like, okay, you know what? We're turning around. So they turn around, go back to Washington, D.C., and says, sir, we were really close to dropping off supplies, but the Confederates shot cannonballs at us, and we had to retreat. Lincoln now knows, okay, those guys have cannons right on the where the water is. So now he has an idea what he's has to deal with. Okay. Now, the guy in charge on land, the mainland, was Confederate General Pierre Beauregard. And the guy in charge at this island right there you see in that picture, that was Major Robert Anderson. Now, they meet up to try to negotiate things like that, but both sides knows there's no way of negotiating. Robert Anderson basically tells Beauregard, hey, I can't give up this land, you know. And Beauregard goes, yeah, I understand. And I can't let you keep that land either. I got to take it. He's like, yeah, I understand. So they basically both go back to their respected areas. And then April 12th, 1861, the Confederates start shooting their cannons right towards the island. And it's hitting, like there used to be a building there, and the cannonballs hit the building. Gah, gah, gah. You know, um, people are, you know, trying to avoid the cannon fire and things like that. Here's the interesting thing though. In Fort Sumter, they did not fire one cannon. They didn't fire one shot from a gun. They basically just held up inside and didn't retaliate. Because again, they don't want to be the ones who be like, oh, well, we started the war, you know. So officially, quote unquote, the Civil War starts with the Battle of Fort Sumter. Now, here's the interesting thing: there are about like 200 some guys there on the fort. Um, None of them die. With all this cannon fire knocking down buildings and things like that, being just coming all around, no one dies. And the other side, the Confederates, no one dies either because no one shot, not even a single bullet from the fort. So nobody dies in this battle. So Major Robert Anderson realizes, you know what? We really got lucky. We really did. Nobody died and things like that. So he says, next day around 2:30, he says, "All right, I'm going to surrender, but you got to give us some time to get some boats here so we can evacuate, take our things and stuff like that." Beauregard goes, "Okay, I can do that." So it's officially over, the first battle. All right, so here is my question to you. Do you believe John Brown should be considered a martyr? Why or why not? Now, a martyr is a person who is killed because of their beliefs, whether it's religious, personal, an ideal, whatever. But here's the kicker, though. Here's the thing: people who are martyrs are people like Jesus, Gandhi, Martin Luther King. These are all people who said no to violence. So, should John Brown be in the same category as martyrdom as Jesus, Gandhi, and Martin Luther King? Remember, he promoted violence, you know, but he also died for what he believed in. So, in your opinion, should he be considered a martyr or shouldn't he? What do you think? Okay. If you don't know how to start the sentence, the writing prompts on the bottom for you. Again, I believe that John Brown should or shouldn't, whichever you choose, be considered a martyr because, and explain. Okay. And again, don't put like, oh, he should be a martyr because he's not like Jesus. And martyrs are like Jesus and Martin Luther King. So be sure you actually know, and again, the definition of martyr before you make your decision. Okay. Be sure to look at it yourself. Okay. Once you've answered this question, that's it. You're done with this lesson. So hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. With that being said, guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later, okay?